When my mother was pregnant with me, she and my father bought a house in a very rural area of East Germany. My father was disabled, so he couldn't work anymore, and my mother worked in the psychiatric hospital an hour away. So my father was always left alone in the house, and he hated it. He told my mother he'd hear voices and footsteps, things would move, the TV would change channels, and so on. My mother always thought it was because of his medications, heart defect, diabetes, and very strong pain medications. Since her go-to was always, "No, you're just stressed and tired." Since that was the same thing she told herself, and continues to say to herself to this day. When I was born, my father was terrified to let me sleep in the attic, where my room was planned to be. He made me stay in his room until his excuses wouldn't work anymore. He always said that I'd have night terrors and so on, since my mother always did night shifts, and therefore couldn't prove him wrong. He also put me in kindergarten at 9 months old, because the house creeped him out too much. The first memories I have of this house are no different. I heard the voices of men's coughing, and heavy footsteps. But I didn't have such a problem with it as my father did. I didn't think they were scary for some reason. At some point, my mother didn't have as many night shifts as she did back then, so I was moved to the room on the attic. It was way louder up there. I had the same experiences as my father. My TV would switch channels, my VHS player would act up, which wasn't that weird as I was used to that and thought they just did that, and the DVD player did the same. I had drapes in front of my bed that would move every night, right next to the armchair that my mother put there. One plushie kept falling off of the shelf. And I had weird dreams, always of grown-ass men. A Russian soldier? 2 men that I could never put into a category. The men in my dreams would just be normal to me, not threatening, but just there. I was so young that I didn't know that this was a whole village for the Russian military in the GDR. And once the GDR was gone, the Russian soldiers left, and Germans would buy those houses. I called them by the names they told me, which were Sasha, Heinrich, and Max. Sasha and Max would always tell me never to go into the woods without my neighbors. I didn't question it. Why would I? I was 4, and my neighbors always watched me when my father was in the hospital, and my mother was at work when the kindergarten was closed. The 3 would also always say never to talk to certain neighbors, which were basically all except those who watched me regularly. Once again, why would I question that? 4 years old, nice neighbors were fine, and those 3 were always nice. At one point, my mother got behind it, and I experienced the same thing my father did. So she questioned my father and me separately. I described them, gave names, and told her how they talked and what they said. Hughes brushed it off until we were both going to our beach, but I said, "I know a shortcut." We had a hidden beach that you can't even see on Google Maps to this day, since it belongs to the military base next to our house. She didn't know. My dad didn't know. Neighbors didn't know. No one did. But I somehow led her to it through the forest, knew where I could and couldn't step. What could be in a forest? In an area that was full of war, next to a military base of the Russians. Exactly. Landmines. Never hit any, never saw any explode until I was 12. But we did find a lot of those that stepped on said mines. My mom asked me where I knew, and I told her. Sasha told me. Now, at that point, she did get suspicious and did some research. Sasha was the first officer who lived there and had a heart attack. Max and Heinrich were normal people who moved there, but died. Heinrich was very old, by the way. And for Max, my mother had to do more digging, because she got the house from the bank. The guy that lived here before us hung himself. Maximum. I saw and heard them for years. Then it got less, until it stopped. when I moved into the room of my father when he died. But I always felt watched in that room. From the corner his bed was. It might just be paranoia. I'm 9 now and can think rationally. There is nothing there. And those footsteps, those aren't his footsteps, which he did when his feet tingled. No, it's the house settling. It's a wooden house after all. Voices at 2 a.m. My mind is playing tricks. Things move. It must be my ADHD. After all, I regularly forget my age and search for the remote that's in my hands. Fast forward a few more years. I have a friend over, and we both decided to stay in the attic to watch Harry Potter because my old 80s TV had a DVD player. The TV turns off. It must be the bad wiring. The light turns on. Maybe the switch wasn't fully flicked. The TV turns on again, but now my VHS is running and Nupagadi is playing. That thing was spooky when I was a toddler, so it's nothing new. So I tried to fix it when my friend suddenly got quiet and called my name while staring at the direction of the door. There's a mirror on the chimney that I covered. I spray paint when I was a kid because mirrors are creepy. What? I swear, someone is standing. You see things? No, I don't. That's a Russian. Very funny German. I literally thought she was kidding because she always called me Russian as a nickname. I was the only Russian kid in our elementary school, so my head flicked to that. Look, he's staring right at us. Now I got creeped out, turned around and see nothing. You see someone? Yeah. How do you know he's Russian? 'Cause of the uniform. You see him? Uniform? How the hell would she see my imaginary friends? At least I thought they were imaginary friends. Sasha, go away. As a joke. A bloody joke. And then she turned to me and straight up took her things and ran back down the stairs. She then told me that the Russian just nodded and left. She refused to go anywhere near my attic ever again and spent that night in a tent in the backyard. How the hell could she see my imaginary friend from when I was a toddler? At some point, my mother asked her about this, and after a long talk, she told her what she saw. So once my friend was back at her home the next day, my mother parked her car after we let her put and told me that those were not imaginary friends, that she thought they were, but got convinced otherwise when she once saw my father in the hallway, just staring at her. Years after he died, she told me she yelled at him to go away, and he just left and went back into his room, which was where he died, and then became my room. I still don't know what the hell is up with that house, but let's just say that once I inherit it, it goes straight back to the bank. 'Cause if it really was ghosts, what do those guys in the attic really want? Why are they there? Why did they stare at my friend? Why could she see Sasha and I couldn't? But if he was bad, why did he just nod and leave her alone? Every time I go up to the attic, I feel watched. Every time I'm in my room, I feel watched. I still hear those footsteps and voices from the attic. Maybe those footsteps in my father's room were his stumping to get the blood flowing. But I do not want to know. I do not want to see him. I'd probably have the same reaction my mother had when she saw him. And that's why I won't be keeping this house. There's always something off about it. It's costly to maintain. And if ghosts are real, no thanks. Once it's mine, it's going straight back to the bank. Thanks for watching. And if you've got any creepy stories of your own, share them with us via email or voice note. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. See you next time.